Studios original.
Hello and welcome to Web Crawlers, the podcast where we do a deep dive into some of our favorite unsolved mysteries. Each week we will introduce our topic, lay out our research and findings, reveal some conspiracy theories, and conclude with our own hypothesis. Who knows? We might even solve the case. I'm Allie Siegel.
And I'm Melissa Stetton.
Before we dive into our main story, we're going to start off each episode with a weird thing we discovered this week. You told me about this one.
These are number stations.
Which I never heard of. Can you explain to me what it is?
They're very creepy. It's these shortwave radio broadcasts that only transmit spoken word numbers or snippets of weird songs and codes. One theory is that they're part of some espionage efforts by intelligence agencies of different countries, or they're the work of organized drug smugglers, or they're actually communications between aliens. And some of them are still being broadcast to this day. There's a couple of famous ones. One's called the Swedish Rhapsody. This music starts playing.
These are just random radio stations?
Yes. And then this one has like numbers.
Is that a baby voice? I don't like it.
It's really creepy. There's one that's this German intelligence gong station is what it's called.
What do they do there?
They're messages that would open with a series of chimes that were followed by a woman shouting out coded number groups. Some of them are supposedly from the KGB.
That's aliens.
This is aliens for
That's
sure.
aliens.
Producer Maria.
Hi, Maria.
Hi, Maria.
I don't understand, though. Who put those out and how long have they been on the air for?
Some of them have been out since the 60s and the 70s.
And they're just replaying over and over?
Yes. The Lincolnshire poacher started in the 70s, and it was transmitted from the island of Cyprus. This is so creepy. This is an English folk song.
39715.
This makes me think the show Lost is real.
Well, yeah, this is probably coming from the hatch in the island.
Where can you listen to them?
I know there's it's from shortwave radio, which is radio waves in the shortwave band can be reflected or refracted from a layer of electrically charged atoms in the atmosphere called the ionosphere. So I guess they're just megahertz at different levels than what we normally hear on FM, AM radio.
I got it.
So you need a shortwave radio to play.
I can answer this question like a champ.
Well, let's hear it.
Anyone, anywhere in the world can listen in simply by tuning a radio to the frequency 4625 kilohertz.
Does anyone have a shortwave radio? Can you buy them on Amazon?
I don't know, but this is once or twice a week. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for the last 3.5 decades. This radio station has been broadcasting a dull, monotonous tone. For a few seconds, it's joined by a second sound like some ghostly ship foghorn, then a drone. But yeah, if you know where to tune into these, or if you know of any other ones, drop us a line.
Yeah, email us at webcrawlerspod@gmail.com or send us a message on Twitter.
Maria's dying to say something.
Well,
right now.
What is it, Maria?
Well, on the website War on the Rocks,
Yeah.
They say number stations have been in existence since World War I. Over the years, they have attracted sporadic interest from journalists, video game designers, and filmmakers. Despite this attention, there are few explanations of what these signals actually are. Too often, they are described as creepy, spooky, or mysterious, and the
That's
discussion
for sure.
stops there. It may be disappointing to some, but these stations are not signals from aliens or mind control devices.
Yeah, right.
Buzzkill.
Nor are they dead relics of the Cold War. Rather, these stations are part of the sophisticated work of intelligence agencies and militaries, and they are very much still on the air. And then they say the rest of the article will go on to describe.
I'm not into that explanation either.
Yeah. I mean, that's still interesting. Like, why are they transmitting codes?
Yeah.
It's like war-related stuff? Like secret codes of like coordinates, maybe?
Yeah, coordinates.
Coordinates. Anyway.
Should we get on with our episode?
Yeah, we're going to get into our episode about the Dyatlov Pass. By the way, this episode has a lot of facts and Russian names.
So buckle up.
Buckle up. Just keep following along.
Yeah, you can do it. And we don't know how to pronounce a lot of them.
Sorry in advance.
Sorry in advance.
Here we go.
Напомню, они отправились в экспедицию по следам группы Игоря Дятлова.
The bodies of 9 hikers were found almost 60 years ago.
A group of hikers died in mysterious circumstances.
It had become known as the Dyatlov Pass incident.
One could possibly explain this rather bizarre-looking behaviour.
The cause of their deaths still unknown. Now police and emergency teams have set out.
Странное исчезновение в горах Северного Урала.
In 1959, the bodies of a 9-member hiking expedition were found frozen to death near their campsite in the Ural Mountains. Made up mostly of students and graduates from the Ural Polytechnic Institute, the team had set out on January 27th to reach another mountain about 7 miles away called the Gora or Torten. After being sidetracked by a snowstorm, they pitched a tent on the eastern slope of Kholat Syakhl on February 2nd. That night, they died.
Apart from the fact that they froze to death, no one knows how or why the experienced hikers died. Police and military investigators were baffled by what they found. Their tent had been sliced open from the inside and abandoned, with their belongings left behind. The placement and condition of their bodies, some found as far as a mile from the tent and buried under 13 feet of snow, were odd to say the least.
Additionally, one hiker was found with a fractured skull, another was missing their eyes, another a tongue, some were found in sparse clothing, and others were found in the clothing of their friends, which tested high for radiation. Their bodies had aged, they had gray hair, and their skin also emitted a soft orange glow.
The investigators concluded the cause of death was an unknown compelling force that the hikers were unable to overcome. As of February 1st, 2019, the Russian authorities reopened the investigation so that they could finally put the case and all the conspiracy theories to rest. Let's break down who these hikers were and how they each died. There were 10 hikers, 8 men, and 2 women. The names are very Russian, so I need Melissa to pronounce them.
So there's only one survivor, Yuri Yudin. He was 23. He left the expedition early. He had rheumatism and was complaining of knee pain and decided to quit. He later died in 2014 at the age of 75. There's Yuri Doroshenko, age 21, Yuri Krivonashenko, age 23. That's right, there were 3 people named Yuri on this expedition.
They were the first 2 bodies to be found almost a mile away from the camp. They were shoeless and in their underwear, found next to a small fire under a tree. Their hands were burnt. There were broken branches around, suggesting they had climbed the tree to get away from something or to get a better look at the territory.
There's Igor Dyatlov. He's 23. He was the leader of the group, and also the pass was eventually named after him. Zenaida Kolmogorova, that's a girl. She's 22. And Rustam Slobodin was 23.
All 3 of these hikers were found dead between the tree and the tent, in poses suggesting that they were on their way back to the tent. All 3 were dead of hypothermia, but Rustern had a 2-inch gash in his head and a fractured skull, 1 boot on and 4 socks on the right foot, nothing on the left.
The last 4 hikers were Semyon Alexander, age 38, significantly older than the rest of the group, Ludmila Dubinia, she's the other girl, she's 20, Alexander Kolevatov, he's 24, and Nikol Vladimirovich, age 23.
Now, unlike the other 5 hikers who all died of hypothermia, the group was found under 13 feet of snow down a slope, and most died of trauma. Semyon had severe chest trauma. Ludmila had chest trauma and was missing her eyes and tongue. Alexander had exposed skull bones. They had on more clothes than the other hikers. Semyon was wearing Ludmila's faux fur coat and hat, and had a camera around his neck. Weird that he grabbed that while fleeing. And Ludmila's foot was wrapped in a piece of Yuri K's wool trousers.
Why did they flee their tent? Why did they leave their belongings behind? Why did some of them freeze to death while others showed signs of internal trauma? Who or what removed the tongue of one of the victims? Why were there traces of radiation on their clothing? Nobody knows. But we've got some theories. Okay, here are some of our best theories. So, Semyon Zolotaryev,
This one's wild.
he's 37. He's the most mysterious of the hikers. In Dubinia's diary, she wrote that initially no one wanted him to come. They were like, who's this guy? We don't want him to come. But then she felt bad, and then they just let him tag along. He was an instructor at the school. He was like a hiker instructor. He was a former World War II veteran. He had moved around a lot, so he didn't really have a set home.
All red flags.
Yeah, he announced right before his trip to his students, quote, "This whole world will start talking about this trek." What does that mean? He didn't say anything in particular, only that they will soon find out about everything. He also had a tattoo of an inscription. It's Daermmuazuaya. No one remembers having ever seen this tattoo on his body before he was found dead. It doesn't translate into anything.
Okay, which I also have theories about.
Oh, what's your theory?
Okay, his family didn't know that he had any tattoos.
Right.
And I read on Reddit that all the names, those are just letters, and they're names of people who have come into his life. And that some of the names,
Because he had the year he was born tattooed on him, 1921.
then some of the letters translate to the letters of some of the hikers.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Also, my theory is that, and this goes into one of my later theories, that's some sort of alien tattoo.
Oh, yeah, there were aliens involved, for sure.
But that aliens came down, and that's some sort of alien language, and that maybe Semyon actually was an alien.
Yeah, because I tried to translate that into any sort of language and look up what it meant, and there is nothing.
There's nothing. Okay.
There's nothing. I put it in an anagram machine.
And it didn't come out to anything?
It came out to Aura Maze, yeah, mud.
Aura Maze is kind of interesting.
There's so many other, I don't know what that means. But he also died on his 38th birthday. That's when they were found. So he also had a camera that no one knew about.
Also suspect.
Which is weird. They thought they had 4 cameras, and then all of a sudden, because in the diary, they kept diaries of everything.
Yeah.
And so they were writing about who had cameras, and on his body, they found a camera. When you're escaping a tent, something crazy happened in the tent.
Right.
When you're escaping, he grabbed his camera and ran out of the tent.
Maybe it was a secret pervert camera.
But
Because the girl
and all the
really
film was
didn't want him
damaged.
to come, and she wrote
That's
about it in her
true.
diary, being
That's
like,
true.
Semyon cannot come
he was
on this
taking
trip.
pictures of her sleeping or
Yeah,
something.
and then secret camera took it. And also, I've seen Semyon also sometimes written as
Semen.
semen.
Well, I don't know how to pronounce that.
Is another theory that I just came up with.
Is that his name translates to semen?
Which, who knows? But continue.
So last year on April 12th, 2018, his remains were exhumed upon the initiative of journalists. So contradictory results were obtained. One of the experts stated that the character of the injuries resembled a person knocked down by a car, and the DNA analysis did not reveal any similarity to the DNA of his niece.
Oh, so he's like not related.
But it was tested a month later, and it did match. Although the body could be his brother Nikolai, who worked for the Germans and has been missing since the war. In addition, it turned out that the name of Semyon Zolotarev is not on the list of buried people at the Ivana Zvyok Cemetery. So journalists were all suspicious that maybe another person was hiding under his name after the war.
Or it's just a government cover-up because he's an alien.
Yeah, he could be a KGB plant. He had military training.
He had military training.
And secret tattoos.
And a secret camera. So he probably, and the whole world is going to find out about this mission.
Mm-hmm.
So he was a spy of some sort.
Yes. That's actually one of my leading theories.
Okay, go into that. You think he's a spy?
Okay, well, I think two of them were KGB agents.
Which other one?
One of the Yuris.
Okay,
so
I feel like all your theories are going to be actually real scientific ones, and mine are all like Yeti, alien.
So, okay, I think he and one of the Yuris, Yuri Doroshenko,
Okay.
because they were both engineer majors in college. They were KGB agents.
Okay.
They were on a mission to photograph something that was going to be happening in the sky. This is why they brought all of their photo equipment and all this, because they brought tripods and they brought, like, when you're going on a hike
Why else would you do that?
in negative 20-degree weather, why do you bring, like, all of that equipment?
Right, you don't need that.
So I think they were going there and they were waiting to film something or take pictures of parachute mines.
Yeah, or
coming
those
out of the
orbs.
sky.
Maybe the orbs were testing something.
Yeah. And so, because there was a tripod set up in one of the photos.
Yeah.
Someone had a tripod. And so maybe they heard whatever was happening, loud booming and stuff. And that's why Semyon grabbed his camera, because he's like, oh, I'm part of the KGB. I need to take photos of this. And then something crazy. They died. An explosion happened.
Because also in terms of the explosion, there was some sort of stove.
It was a homemade stove.
A homemade stove that was attached to the tent.
Yes, that was inside the tent. It was Igor Dyatlov. He made this stove,
Right.
which is like kind of janky.
But
and
he was an engineering major, right?
Yes.
So maybe he just knew how to do it.
But in one of the photos of, I can't remember which guy it was, there's a photo of him, his jacket is burned.
So the stove was problematic.
Yeah, so no one says how his jacket was burned, but it was probably caught on fire from, shitty stove.
Right. And if the stove started like plummeting smoke into the tent.
That's why they slashed open.
They would have slashed open to let smoke
Yes.
out and try to get out. So that's another
Yes.
reason. And then, okay, if there's smoke in the tent, this is the only actual real theory that I might get into.
I like this
The
theory.
rest is all Yetis and aliens. But okay, so let's say the tent fills with smoke and then you go outside and it's freezing cold temperatures that you're not prepared for because maybe you're not dressed for it. And then there's some sort of phenomenon when it's super cold outside.
Yes.
And do you know what I'm talking about? The paradoxical undressing.
Yes.
So when you get hypothermia, there's a feeling that your skin is burning. And so you start taking off your clothes.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So that could be one of the reasons why some of them are found in states of undress.
Yes.
Because they were starting to get hypothermia and started taking off their clothes, which could explain 1, the slashes, 2, them leaving outside in a state of worry, and then 3, part of them being in a state of undress.
All feasible.
Right.
Let's talk about the UFOs and the...
Oh my God, finally, thank God.
So, did you read that another group of hikers nearby said that they saw strange lights in the sky?
Yes, we talked about that. So there are these glowing orbs that people have been in the area seeing in the sky. Not only hikers, though, that they're like country people.
Country
The country people. The country people. The city people. There is people in the city. There is some city that people have been seeing them in.
Yeah, so maybe that's why, what's his face, Semyon, the older creepy guy, maybe that's why he grabbed his camera And everyone was like, hey, look outside. There's this glowing orb. So he grabbed his camera. They ran outside to take photos. And then aliens descended upon them or something crazy happened where they got into a fight. I don't know, because, you know, they have their skulls are fractured.
There is a radioactivity, missing body parts, the aging.
Right. Yeah, that's weird.
Premature aging, the orbs. And also their hair and stuff had grade.
Yeah.
So for me, this is what I think happened. Also, I read there was an article, a Vice article, which we'll put the link on top of. Link on top of. I wonder what that means. We'll put the link on top of. We'll put the link on our Twitter or our Facebook. The Vice article says, on top of the bodies, the amount of weird things have been reported regarding these deaths. Some reasonable. Trace amounts of radiation on their clothes. Their bodies were a strange tan color. The eyes and tongue were missing because Dubina was found in a stream. Some note seeing orange orbs around the mountain when the hikers were on it. Their bodies were prematurely aged, etc. Pairs with how the Soviets handled it. The deaths were blamed on spontaneous power of nature, and the case was quickly shuttered, caused many to this day to speculate about what actually caused it. So for me, that's all aliens.
Yeah, there's definitely something fishy going on because they closed the case pretty quickly.
Yeah, the government monitored the case closely and then was like, shut it down.
Yeah, and a lot of they all kept diaries, and they only found, I think, like 4 or 5 of them.
Yeah.
And a lot of the details are, like, the case is closed. It's locked. You can't, like, open it up, the case.
Lockdown.
Like, the KGB just had some sort of involvement and was like, nope, nothing to see here.
Also, I mean, the fact that it was aged, the radiation, and the graying of like their hair, I think that a UFO came, the aliens sucked them up onto their UFO, did experiments on them, and then plopped them back down. And that's why their bodies were all janky and weird.
Yeah, that part is weird to me. Like, why did some of them die from these like blows that were supposed to be like as hard as a car crash?
Yeah, that's UFOs.
You don't get that from falling down.
A UFO? How do you know?
A UFO full of Yetis.
Have you ever seen that SNL episode where it's that skit where it's like the 3 people were abducted by aliens, and it's like the 2 people were like, I had a really peaceful journey.
Yes.
And then Kate McKinnon's like, it was awful for me.
Yeah.
I think that's what happened is like some people had a peaceful journey at the UFO and then they just died of hypothermia when they got back down. And some people were like, oh, my eyeballs and tongue got ripped out.
That could have happened.
So that's one of my assessments is that aliens came, abducted the hikers, and
just tossed them back out.
Then tossed them
and that's
back
why
out.
they were just strewn about.
They were strewn about different areas. Different things happened to them. Radioactivity.
Okay, I have this other theory. It's a newer one as of like 2013. Have you read? It's called infrasound.
Yes.
Okay, so this one is interesting to me. Wind going around the mountain could have created a Kármán vortex street.
This is crazy.
Which it's a phenomenon where wind of a certain speed hits a blunt object of a particular shape and size that results in air vortices. So that can create an infrasound, which is below 20 megahertz, lower than what humans can hear. Infrasound, it was discovered by this French scientist. He discovered it by accident. His lab assistant started feeling nauseous. No, his lab assistant started feeling nauseous. They'd pain in their eardrums with no apparent cause, and he concluded that it was inaudible, low-frequency sound waves.
Make you go crazy.
Yeah. And it couldn't be picked up by microphone, and the exposure led to illness lasting days.
So maybe that there was this Kármán vortex street of wind on the mountain, and it made them all go crazy.
Yes.
And go into state of like anxiety, panic attacks, and they just fled the tent.
Yeah.
Went nuts. And then that made them go in the state of paradoxical undressing.
Yes.
And all that stuff happened.
Yeah, because the sound induces panic because of the pressurized effects pulsing in your eardrums. It sends these crazy impulses to your brain. And so it basically disrupts your whole body, makes you go crazy. They could have heard that, ran, like kind of went crazy, slash open the tent. But the way their bodies, some of them were found, they were facing towards the tent as if they were walking back.
So maybe they
towards
stopped
the tent.
being crazy and then wanted to go back?
The sound dissipated and then they were on their way back because most of them were found facing the tent.
But do you think that they went crazy and ripped out their own eyeballs and tongues? Like, that's my question.
Well, maybe. Another explanation for that is that it could have just been scavengers, like animals coming by and eating. Because the two people whose eyeballs were missing and the tongue, they were by a stream.
Yeah, they're in the ravine.
So maybe...
Little too reasonable for my liking.
Yeah, too reasonable.
Okay, so my also, you know what I found that was interesting about the Kármán vortex? It's also have you ever heard telephone wires?
Heard them.
You don't hear
Oh,
do you
no.
ever hear telephone wires?
Oh no.
No.
Do you
Oh
have
my god, this is just a me thing?
Wait, no, I like that
The,
weird buzzing.
gentle buzzing of
Yeah,
telephone wires.
like the zapping. The zzz.
Yeah, like the zzz.
Yeah.
That's also Kármán vortex.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. Like it can drive you nuts.
Oh.
Like the gentle like zzz.
I was thinking that you were like, those people who are allergic to electricity.
Yes.
I
Have you
thought- I
ever
was
seen
like,
that
oh, no.
documentary about the
Yes.
people? Oh my god, that's crazy. They have to live in the woods with no
Yes.
cell phones or electricity or anything.
Yeah, I wonder if that's
We should
like.
do an
I
episode
wonder if
on
they
that.
hear. Yeah, I wonder if they hear.
Yeah, it makes them
stuff that-
sick.
Yeah.
I've thought that I've had that before.
Well, a part of it is a low frequency thing that makes them sick, and that's kind of what this thing creates.
Because I always feel so tired and kind of ill that I've thought that maybe it's, and I'm around. Okay, anyways.
That'll be another
Producer's
episode.
This is not what we're doing right now. Okay, my other theory is the Yeti, the Siberian Yeti, which is actually famous. The Russian Yeti.
Yeah, it is.
It's one of the places the Yeti lives. There's been a Discovery Channel documentary on it
really
called The Russian Yeti, The Killer Lives. So this is not just me who thinks that. It's also called the Russian Sasquatch has a name, and it's Alma, which is a name I can
Alma?
pronounce. Yeah, it's been named. So I think was it Yuri's photo? Whose last photo was of a Yeti?
Oh yeah, it's one of their photos.
Yeah, someone's last photo was of a Yeti. So to me, and you said it looked a little grainy, and I've heard on
Yeah.
Reddit people think that it looks like maybe it's someone in a puffy jacket just
Yeah.
leaning over.
Yeah.
I think not.
You think-
Also, the hits to the head and the bodies of the three hikers, to me, suggests that a Yeti attacked them.
Yeah, something had to have attacked them.
Also, this might be a conspiracy. I'm not sure. It can't be substantiated. But I read on the very accurate website Reddit that did you read this? That a scrap of paper was found near the hikers
No.
that said, "From now on, we know that snowman exists."
What? Is that real?
Yeah, I read that.
What?
Yeah, from now on, we know snowmen exist.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So what I think happened is that a Yeti came and attacked them. They took a picture, and then one of their diary entries, the last thing they scrawled out, "Snowmen exist," and then they all died.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So that's another one I have. Another thing that I looked up, which I don't think, because this would have, in the autopsy, I think that they did check their stomachs for what they had
Yes.
eaten, and it was all just like food and blood.
Yeah.
Common conspiracy is that maybe they were shrooming
Oh.
and just went crazy
Oh.
because there's shrooms in that area.
Oh, that's interesting. Because they did, I don't know what they did with like a drug test, but they like found alcohol, but they didn't, I mean, they checked their stomachs. It was like ham and bacon and stuff that they had eaten earlier.
Classic death by ham
Yeah.
stomach.
But also, Zenaida.
Yeah.
Was she the one who was found without her tongue?
Yeah.
They found coagulated blood in her stomach, suggesting that she might have been alive when her tongue was removed.
Shut the fuck up.
Yeah, that's a weird theory.
Well, then that discredits the whole like she was dead and animals ate her, unless she was just so frozen she couldn't do anything.
Yeah, I don't know. She was found, there are photos of all of their bodies, but she was found kind of like in an up position, like
We'll put the
crawling
photos on our
over a
Patreon,
ravine?
and that's the only. We're gonna wipe the web of all the photos, and then we're gonna put the photos on our Patreon. So then that's the only place you can get them, and you'll have to actually, unfortunately, just donate $1,000.
$1,000 to see them.
But yeah, so maybe she was shrooming, and I don't know. I've never done shrooms, but can you have a bad trip and bite out your own tongue and gouge out your eyeballs?
I've done shrooms a few times, and I've never.
How crazy does it get?
I mean, not that. I mean, if you take a lot of mushrooms, you can go crazy. But I don't know.
Maybe. Did you read about the Mansi people?
A little, yeah. The native.
Did you have a
people?
theory on them?
Sort of. Maybe they were like upset that they were in their area and they just came and like attacked them.
Yeah. So like the Mansi people were a tribe who lived in the area, and they were like a private and spiritual people. And I guess on the mountain, there are a lot of prayer houses and like mysterious stones. And there hadn't been any violence that occurred with the Mansi people for the past 30 years. So that kind of discredits this, but so it's still important for me to say. But apparently one of the theories is that maybe they did a ritual sacrifice of the hikers.
That's possible.
Yeah. But also I'm thinking maybe the Mansi people had good shrooms.
Maybe.
Or maybe the Mansi people had some sort of alliance with the Yeti or the aliens.
They had alliance with the Yeti.
Anyways, you do now one of your one of your scientific theories.
One of the main theories is an avalanche. The theory is that maybe they heard a loud boom and they were like, oh shit, an avalanche. So they slit open the back of the tent because it was dark. They couldn't see anything.
Makes sense.
And they just ran away fast. They got separated and they couldn't find their way back. So, but this theory is widely debunked because there hadn't been any instances of avalanches in that area in like 100 years. No hikers have gone there and ever said there were avalanches. And their tent was found, it would have been swept away.
Right. And also there were still footprints.
There were still footprints.
And also, that would explain, though, the car crash
Yeah, the injuries.
because I imagine that the speed of an avalanche is similar to the speed of a car crash.
Sure. But also Igor Dyatlov, the leader, they were all pretty experienced hikers. So I would think that he would know not to pitch a tent where an avalanche could possibly
That's important
come.
to note that these were like class 2 hikers getting their class 3 credential.
Yeah.
That these are like the best of the best hikers.
Yeah, they knew what they were doing. They weren't just like la-di-da walking in negative 20-degree weather.
Yeah, they know what they're doing. This is my last theory, is they were struck by lightning.
Oh.
Yeah. So the orange orbs in the sky were actually lightning.
Huh.
And so the tent started, maybe like the burns in the tent or the cuts in the tent were actually lightning strikes. And their burnt hands.
Yeah, their hands were burnt.
Their hands were burnt. The branches were like cut off. Maybe that was all lightning. Maybe there was some weird lightning shower. And maybe that's why like their tongues and their eyeballs are out. Maybe it was an electrocution kind of thing.
Oh,
And maybe
that's possible.
I think lightning can probably do the same effect as a car crash.
Yeah, probably if you're like struck by lightning and you're like kind of thrown to the ground.
Yeah. So that's my final theory, is struck by lightning.
I have a theory that I believe is a new theory.
Ooh.
Okay, so I was looking up to see if there were any serial killers in Russia during this time.
Oh my God, I like where this is going.
There were not any active, but the Rostov Ripper.
Holy shit. Who's the Rostov Ripper?
His name is Andrei Chikatilo. He sexually assaulted, murdered, and mutilated at least 52 women and children between 1978 and 1990. But in 1959, he would have been 23 at the time.
Oh my God, do you think that he was one of the hikers?
I searched his history, and he moved to a town called Nizhny Tagil at the base of the Ural Mountains doing construction around 1957. So he was apparently living there at the time.
Oh my God.
And so...
Melissa.
it's this. I looked on a map, and this place is about 100 miles from the entrance to the Dyatlov Pass.
We need to do a whole other episode just researching this guy.
Yeah. So maybe because his murders weren't recorded until 1978, like 20 years later, but perhaps these were his first victims.
Oh,
because he knew
my.
the area well. So maybe he just like joined in and was like, don't take photos of me, I'm camera shy.
Yeah.
Because they were inside the tent. Something happened inside the tent for them to slash it open.
Oh my God. I was just dating a guy who wouldn't let me take photos of him because he said he was camera
yeah.
shy. And when you just said that, I just got triggered.
Oh no.
But continue.
I mean, I'd be suspicious of that guy. So maybe he was in the tent and started...
that would also explain the slashes. Maybe
Yes.
he was...
trying to stab.
Yeah.
And they slashed the tent, and so they slashed the tent and they ran out of the tent.
Oh
and
my gosh.
so because the two guys were found by that tree, there were in their hands or on the tree there was flesh on the tree. So either they were like climbing up
To get away from
to
him.
get away, and he just killed the other.
This is my favorite theory.
Yeah.
You know what we need to
Yeah.
do? We need to post this theory on our Facebook or our Reddit
Yeah.
and see what people think.
Because I Googled like this serial killer in the Dyatlov Pass, and there were not any connections made.
Well, we've made it. This is
Original theory.
original theory from web crawlers is it was a serial killer. What was his name again?
Andrei Chikatilo, the Rostov Ripper.
The Rostov Ripper. Was that your last one?
I think so.
I have a question.
Yeah.
This is producer Maria. Is the premature aging thing is the interesting thing to me. Doesn't that have to do with radiation poisoning for like, and would you think that maybe Russia was doing nuclear testing in some way and that it somehow got to where they were?
Yeah. Well, one theory is that their bodies were discolored because they were out in the sun for so long, but also orange skin is a side effect of radiation poisoning, and their hair was gray.
In the movie Devil's Pass, they made a movie out of this event, and it's not like a documentary or about this, but it's about a group of University of Oregon students. I think the movie's from 2013. It's a horror movie who try to figure out what happened to Igor and the hikers. Spoiler alert, the movie's from 2013. So if you haven't seen it yet, then that's on you. But it turns out that it was, the Russian government doing radiation tests and time travel testing.
Testing.
Yeah, which is why that they were prematurely aged. I'm looking up now the effects of radiation poisoning.
Oh, another thing about the footprints is that they were like not the footprints of people who were rushing out of the tent. They were like walking slowly. I don't know how they determined that, but like based on like the depth of the footprints,
Yeah.
they were like, oh, they walked out of the tent. They were not running, they were walking.
So maybe they were in a state of curiosity about what was outside.
Yeah. That's why I think it was some military testing was happening, and they went to photograph it.
So maybe the orange glows were military radiation or nuclear testing.
Yeah.
And that's why they went out to take pictures of it. Maybe it's because that they were secret agents. And then that's, they passed away from it somehow. Maybe because, the government found them, saw what they were doing and killed them, and then tried to cover it up. And the premature aging is because they got radiation poisoning.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Like how else would they have died? Like why are some of them, why do they have broken ribs? And some of them had their knuckles they had skin missing as if they were like getting into fights. And they had like some of them scratches on their face as if like they were like beaten up or like, it doesn't make any sense. Nothing makes sense. What happened in the tent for them to cut open the tent
It's crazy.
to
But
wanna
as
run
we
out.
mentioned, they have now reopened the case.
Yeah.
But they're only investigating natural phenomena,
Right.
which is like avalanche,
Yeah.
weather disasters, so on and so
Yeah.
forth. However, we are going to continue with our serial killer theory because I'm most interested in that. Do you have a leading theory? What do you think it was after our discussions today?
I do think that there was a cover up with the KGB.
Okay.
Because the KGB is just shady.
Yeah.
And I think the 38-year-old Semyon, I think he was part of the military
Interesting.
because he had past military experience. I think he was there on some sort of a mission, either him or someone else. And they were supposed to photograph something happening. This is why he brought his secret camera with him, because he
Yes.
didn't want the other people in the group to know. He was supposed to be photographing something, whether it was experiments on the other hikers that he had to photograph or something happening in the sky, like explosions or like bomb testing or
Yeah.
something. Maybe it was a suicide mission of like he had to go photograph something happening and the KGB knew to find his body and knew that he had a camera on him, and they destroyed the other diaries because maybe some people found out something about him.
My leading theories is I like that one. That's probably the most probable. I mean, and that's also in addition to like the Karman vortex paradoxical undressing stuff. I am a big fan of the Siberian Yeti just because I really want it to be true. And then I like the new one that you came up with about the serial killer.
Yeah.
That's really interesting to me, and I want to look more into that. So that's about it. I guess if you have any more information, if you're listening, please contribute it. Melissa, where can people contact us?
People can find us on Twitter at WebCrawlersPod, Instagram WebCrawlersPod. We got a Facebook page, WebCrawlersPod, WebCrawlersPod everywhere. Just
Everywhere.
Google it.
Okay, guys, just remember, leave no thread unturned.
Signing off.
I'm Allie.
And I'm Melissa. This is Web Crawlers.
An Erios original.
Powered by ACAST.